While hype is at an all-time high for the Lexus GX here in America, as we will get a redesign on June 8th. Come back to the channel. I will reveal it for you guys in Austin, Texas. But news coming out of Japan is giving more information for its non-luxury brother, the Land Cruiser Prado, which we very well might get in America as well as our Land Cruiser. The return of the Land Cruiser, man, it's looking good. So let's get into it. All right, Best Car Web, the best source of upcoming Japanese vehicles. Here on the front of the cover, we have Prado over 300 ability, meaning the 300 series Land Cruiser, which we don't get in America, but we get it as a Lexus LX. They're essentially claiming on the cover of the magazine that the Prado / Lexus GX will have better capabilities on-road and probably more than likely off-road than the larger brother. We'll also break down the Crown Sports because I know you guys have mentioned your desire to have my desire as well, to have this vehicle here in the United States. Okay, so they're saying the Prado will debut this fall, which is after the Lexus GX, right? Because that is June 8th. Equipped with the hybrid for the first time ever on a Land Cruiser. But I think the first thing we're going to do is break down the images. Before we get into the details of the new Land Cruiser, I want to go over the design because there is a lot to take from this. I like the overall boxy nature of what they're showing us here. And can you believe it? They actually had the scoop to get this window line pretty correct. If we look at the recent teaser of the Lexus GX, they had this window line, which is also seen on the compact cruiser, the Akio Toyota teased at the end of 2021. They also have a very strong hood line here that we see in the teaser of the Lexus GX as well. What I don't like is the front end. This, even though it looks old school, blocky, it's not what I want. I want circular lights. Now, here's the thing. We need to pump the brakes on this. I've been hearing that the Prado is going to have multiple looks to it. So we could have different grille designs depending on the market. We could have different headlight designs depending on the market. So fingers crossed, they give it the circular headlights to be a direct competitor of, let's say, the Bronco as well as the Jeep Wrangler. So maybe we can hold out. I think the overall body lines are going to be pretty close to this. I don't want the front end to look like that. The back end isn't going to be that much different from this because they got the rear windshield wiper right, and that was also teased on the Lexus GX. We know it's going to be a lift up design instead of the refrigerator door design that we currently have on the GX and Prado. Expect vertical taillights as well, even though the Lexus GX will have that light bar that runs across. I highly doubt the Land Cruiser will have that sort of high-end lighting to it. It looks pretty good from the side. Just the blockiness looks a little bit off on the front, but really from the A-pillar back, and besides the rear bumper that sticks out, it looks pretty good. The front end here, to me, looks almost like a Chinese design, which typically is not very good. All right, let's get into their details. They remind us it's been 14 years, yes, 2009 since we've had the latest generation of the Prado / Lexus GX. And they think that it's going to be a slightly smaller version of the J300 Land Cruiser, and they actually give us dimensions. So I made a spreadsheet of the dimensions that they are expecting for the new Prado and GX, which could be the J250, right? Because the current one is the J150. So they're expecting it to be less than an inch longer than the current model. They're expecting it to be over an inch, about an inch and a half wider, as well as slightly taller. The wheelbase actually grows massively. They're expecting the new wheelbase to match the J300 / Lexus LX 600. That's the golden ratio that Lexus and Toyota have always stuck with for the full-size Land Cruiser. So the Prado could very well get the massive one. Well, it's not that big nowadays with battery electric vehicles, but still large compared to the old GX and 4Runner, the 112-inch wheelbase. And the weight is going to be fairly low, apparently. The current Prado and Lexus GX are porky. They weigh 51 to 5,200 pounds, somewhere around there. So we're looking at a weight reduction of 200 to 300 pounds minimum, which is great. And I think the J300 also saw a pretty large weight reduction. So the vehicle actually gets bigger in dimensions, but loses hundreds of pounds. They're saying ground clearance have been improved from the current model's 220 to the overall level. So 225, which is about 8 6.85 inches. The LX600 has a ground clearance of 8.9 inches, which is 8.85 rounded up, right? So it should have the same ground clearance as the larger brother. And it's really close to where the 4Runner starts at roughly 9 inches as well, the TRD Pro model with 9.6 inches. Stay tuned because I actually have a 4Runner 40th anniversary edition that I'm testing out and driving and reviewing this week. So stay tuned for that. It's a lot of fun. Now on to powertrains. For certain markets, they're saying it's going to get the 1GD FTV, which is a 2.8 liter 4-cylinder diesel. So no surprise there, to be honest. Okay, so when it comes to the powertrains, they still don't know 100% for sure. But what was strange about this is that they're saying is that it could use something similar to what we see in the Hybrid Max powertrain, like in the Crown or let's say the RX 500H, saying it could use a 6-speed automatic transmission. That sounds extremely unlikely. I'd be happy to be wrong, but honestly, look at what we have in the new Tacoma. And the Tacoma has a base 2.4 liter turbo, which is going to be an engine option for this Prado. Probably not for the Lexus GX. But with the hybrid powertrain, it comes with the 8-speed automatic with the 2.4 turbo, with the 48 horsepower electric motor, so 326 horsepower, and gets us to 465 pound-feet of torque. I actually don't imagine them changing this setup for an international model from the Tacomas. I could be wrong, but I just don't see that 6-speed auto setup being in anything other that's not front-wheel drive bias. This is a rear-wheel drive bias setup, but all-time 4x4. Since it is all-time 4x4, it could actually replace the mechanical linkage to the rear wheels with an electric motor like we see in the Hybrid Max powertrains on the RX 500H, for example. That sounds like a nightmare in my opinion, because you would lose the true off-roading rugged nature of a Land Cruiser if you don't have that mechanical linkage. I'm not saying it can't be done with electrification. We see that sort of true torque vectoring with 4 motors being in like the Rivian, for example, and that is an amazing setup. So with a single motor in the back, it just wouldn't live up to the necessary sophistication to handle like difficult off-road situations. So I really don't see this going away, being replaced by a 6-speed auto and a rear electric motor. Okay, so for pricing, they're saying for the base models, it starts at $28,000. I mean, that would never happen here in America, maybe for the Japanese market, but they're saying the hybrid is going to start at $7 million, which is $50,000 US. Honestly, in America, I would expect this Land Cruiser to start at like $55,000, $60,000 for the non-hybrid, but it could come standard as a hybrid. And if it does, maybe it starts at $55,000, $60,000 still at that point. It can't cut too much into the Lexus GX's price points. They actually mentioned the Lexus GX, and they actually have the first teasers of the Lexus GX. So most of this article is probably finished, and then they got into that teaser information for the Lexus GX, in which we now have an additional image with the window line, for example. So the rumored turbo V6, which it is going to have the twin turbo V6, we just don't know the power outputs on it yet. They're saying it could have the Hybrid Max powertrain that we see on the Sequoia and the Tundra. Instead of the 2.4 liter turbo hybrid, we'd be getting the twin turbo V6 hybrid, but they can't confirm that. So really, in my opinion, it's a coin flip between the 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder hybrid on the Lexus GX hybrid or the full-blown twin turbo V6 hybrid. That's what I would like to see to differentiate itself from the lesser Land Cruiser Prado and even the Tacoma and the 4Runner powertrains. And then the GX, it's still a toss-up, right, between this powertrain with a 4-cylinder turbo with 326 horsepower or about 110 horsepower more with the twin-turbo V6 hybrid, possibly up to about 450 horsepower with premium fuel. Okay, so for interior, Best Car actually says they have no information on the interior, which is quite surprising, but 2 iterations we can go off of here. And this is the Land Cruiser 300 series that you're looking at right now, which has a 7-inch MID. It would be nice for them to upgrade that to a fully digital 12-inch MID. Look, the new Tacoma has it on their powertrains. The RAV4 has it. Like it's really full-blown throughout the Toyota lineup at this point. And we more than likely a 12-inch screen on the Prado. But on the Lexus end, here is the Lexus LX, which has a similar setup, of course, because it has the same bones as the J300 series. But Lexus decided to add an additional screen here. I don't mind it. It is ugly, to be honest. This setup is quite distasteful. I would much rather have switches and knobs and additional things, or maybe just one big touchscreen. I don't know why Lexus didn't include just the 14-inch touchscreen here and keep some of the climate controls. We know Toyota and Lexus, or at least I was just in the Sequoia not that long ago, the 14-inch touchscreen, and then they have the climate controls separate from the touchscreen, unlike the Lexus RX, NX, and RZ. Even for the Lexus GX, I would actually prefer this sort of setup over the Lexus LXs, and the LX is pretty costly, so maybe that's why they put all this additional screen and whatnot in there. But come back June 8th, I'll give you guys hands-on coverage, June 8th, 8 p.m. Eastern time, for the Lexus GX, probably the GX 550, as that has been trademarked with the twin turbo V6. Hopefully we get more information on the hybrids, etc. But let's get into the Crown Sport, because they have a write-up here at Best Car Web. They have driven it, so I want to read if there's anything new here. On March 24th, a secret press conference on the prototype car of the Crown Sports was held at Fuji Speedway. The test drive was a plug-in hybrid, was actually a prototype car. And it is said, although the Crown Sport prototype is currently in development, this is your chance to drive it as soon as possible. So they drove an unfinished car. That's what obviously prototype means. They said it's light in handling, but as a plug-in hybrid, we know it's not going to be very light with that heavy battery pack. This amazing matte color here, they say it's not going to make it to production, which is a big fail in my opinion, because it looks so good in it. They said it has excellent turning abilities when they drove it, and they're saying that the power delivery is quite different. There's less delay than traditional Toyota and Lexus hybrids. It actually has adaptive variable suspension as well. And they're only able to drive it in hybrid mode with the gasoline engine shipping in. They weren't able to drive it in electric mode. So unfortunately, not a lot of new information here on the Crown Sport, but I know this is a vehicle that you guys have such high interest in. I would take it over a Lexus NX or RX. I think it looks better than either of those vehicles, especially the RX. I would love to have it in the plug-in hybrid, and I'd be really interested to see if they beef up that plug-in hybrid to give it more power compared to, let's say, the NX 450h Plus or the RAV4 Prime, which is a little over 300 horsepower. But I gotta shut it down. Thank you guys for watching. I know it's been a lot of Toyota news on the channel lately. Just there hasn't been a lot from the other Asian companies that I typically cover. So hopefully we get something good soon. I will be driving the Integra Type S in early June, followed by the reveals of the Lexus TX and GX. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day and peace.